Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from somewhere in Alaska. And I hope that everybody's had a phenomenal week this week. We've had a jam-packed week here on the Must Read Alaska Show. We had Mayor Edna DeVries on yesterday. She is an all-star mayor. I talk about somebody who's done it all. She's been on the assembly. She's been a state senator. She's been the borough mayor before. She's been the Palmer mayor. And she is doing a phenomenal job. Every single week, she does a Facebook Live to tell folks about what's happening at the Mat-Su Borough, which I believe is the second biggest borough in terms of budget in Alaska. And she does the School of Government also here in Alaska. And so she just goes above and beyond. You're not going to want to miss that episode. Today, though, we have a very special guest, Pastor Dean Curry, who lives in Tacoma, Washington. Pastor Dean Curry is a friend of mine. He's one of the most unique people that I've ever met. He is a very sincere person. And I'll tell the folks a teeny story before I welcome him on the show. I don't know, maybe 10, 15, gosh, it's been maybe 12 years ago. I'm not great with numbers, but maybe 12 years ago, I was involved in a church and in Tacoma. And I don't know, we had about 500 people or so, adults and kids coming, and we got booted out of our building one day, and I myself and the other pastor of that church find ourselves in Pastor Dean Curry's office saying, "Hey, what should we do? We just got booted out of our building. We already don't know what we're doing in the first place, and now we really don't know what we're doing." And without even thinking about it, without even hesitation, Pastor Dean Curry said, "You just meet at our building. We got a gym, we got other buildings, you can just meet here and we'll set up and tear down for you. We won't charge you a dime. You could stay for 10 years if you want." And one of the most hospitable, sincere people that I've ever met. He bent over backwards for us for, I don't know, the better part of a whole summer without charging us a dime. And I just can't say enough good things about you, Dean. So welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
Oh, John, you humbled me. Thank you, friend. It's good to see you again, and it's an honor to be on your show, and congratulations on all your success.
Well, thank you so much. So, Dean, you are pastoring a church in Tacoma, but take us way back to your first job at Life Center. Tell us what that was, and maybe a fond memory of your life during that time frame.
Yeah, well, Life Center is a wonderful church in the Pacific Northwest there, and I got a chance to start as a junior high pastor there under someone who I loved and admired, Fulton Buntain. He's in heaven now, but he was just so good to me. Isn't that just a great, to pastor in a church in a city where you grew up is such a great experience. It's just that the network of being around friends and knowing the DNA of a community is a blessing. So that was just a great start. And I worked with middle schoolers. And so
never a dull moment, right?
Oh my gosh. Middle schoolers and adults are the same in that they get bored easily and you have to tell a lot of stories. So it's perfect training for talking to grown-ups.
That's awesome. So you have kind of coined the phrase, if anybody lives in the what folks call the 253 Tacoma area, you are famous for saying that you're a Jesus guy. So
yeah,
it's most pastors that we meet, that I meet, I'll just speak for myself, they put themselves in the I'm a Christian, or I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Lutheran. You've always said I'm just a Jesus guy. Tell us about what that means to you.
Well, as we live in such a divisive era, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's politically divisive. It's even our genders are divisive now. It's just like we fight over everything. So, but one of the toxic things that's happened in religion is how we have these sub identities, John. Where like I'm a Baptist, I'm a Presbyterian, I'm Assembly of God, and these sub identities become more important than the main identity. And when you hear it like that, you go, yeah, that is a little insane. That we don't have any friendships with people because of a sub identity. Just crazy. So I started saying I was a Jesus guy because to me, if you boil faith, Christian faith down to its essence, it's about Jesus on the cross and his resurrection and his death for my mistakes. And so it was so shocking to me how much it resonated. I guess because people are sick and tired of sub identities in the faith community. It's just even that story you told about, you know, uh, opening up the facility for you and your friends. I mean, the fact that that's shocking is shocking.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's shocking is we spend so much time on our sub identity. One sub identity is you were a part of this church over here, and I was a part of that church over there. It's like, but aren't we a part of the same church? Aren't we all Jesus people? Aren't we all trying to get the message of Jesus out? To me, it's just a form of madness that exists in the Christian church.
Yeah, one of the one of the meetings one of the most profound meetings that I remember having with you was, again, maybe 12 years ago. And the church that I was involved in was doing these things called missional communities. And we thought we were pretty cool. And, I thought I was pretty cool. And we had a meeting with you, and we would, meet pretty regularly with you. And this is one of the first meetings we had with you. And you asked us to explain what do you guys do in the city, and tell me about your church. And then so we talked about how awesome we were and how we did these missional communities. And then you asked us a question after we got done with our podium speech about how cool we were. You said, well, tell me the answer to this. How many churches do you think we have here in Tacoma, and that are Christian churches or following Jesus? And so we named some number. There's 347, and we're the only ones. The people that I was with, we're the only ones hanging out with real people, and we're doing And then you made the statement of, hey, listen, guys, there's only one church, and it's the church. Folks hanging out with Jesus are folks hanging out with Jesus. And that always was stuck with me of for the exact point that you just said of how divisive even the church world can be. This is my territory. No, these are my people.
Yeah.
And man, that was always the opposite of any interaction I've ever had with you. And so tell me about this new church. I don't know if it's necessarily a church plant or if it is a church plant. You can fill me in on that details, but I think it's awesome that you have this church. Tell us about it. We just had a mutual friend on, Mark Lindquist, who was very excited that you are pastoring this church. So tell us about it and the meaning behind the name.
Well, I appreciate Mark's endorsement. I enjoyed that episode, by the way. I listened to it, but that little moment you and I had about how many churches does Jesus have? Another friend who's now in heaven, Doug Coe is his name. He for 50 years worked in Washington D.C. with the National Prayer Breakfast. He did that to me 20 20 years ago or whatever it was. And so it made such an impact on me. So I used it. I can't take credit for that, but I do believe it, that we really do just have one church. So 4 years ago, this next weekend, we're going to celebrate 4 years of
Wow, congrats.
this thing that we call Our Church. We started it right before COVID. And we called it Our Church. I didn't really come up with the name. I had a group of friends who decided on the name, and they liked it because something that's ours belongs to everybody. It's not my church. It's not your church. It's not even a church that belongs to Christians. It belongs to the whole community. So what do we call it? We call it ours. It's collective. And we decided to start it. We don't have any membership. If you attend, you're a member. So we just try to lower the bar for people to participate. And so it's called Our Church. And it really started as I had a season at that previous church that came to a sad end.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, unfortunately, not every fairy tale ends happily. So I had a sad chapter there where a former employee made some accusations, and so then you find yourself, what do I do? And I've been successful in the marketplace, investing in real estate and everything. So your first thought is maybe I'll just retire, and just enjoy the sunshine somewhere. But the other thing,
Jesus had maybe a different plan for you.
yeah, for sure. Because the other thing financial independence can do for you is you can do anything you want. And at the end of the day, I asked myself, what do I want to do? And I just really want to keep helping people find Jesus and helping the 253 area code be a peaceful place. So I'm a volunteer these days. For the last 4 years, I've been volunteering at this church that we helped start, and there's a great group of people, and we have 3 experiences a weekend, and it's just been really it's been such a happy occasion. It's a non-denominational church.
Well, one of the things I love about I went on their church website a couple weeks ago, and 9 times out of 10, you and I both know, you go to a church's website and the teaching pastor or the guy or gal that does a lot of the teaching is going to be the main focal point of everything on the entire website. I can't even find you on the website at all.
Well, that was intentional, and it was true of my last church too. I always think it's funny when the font on the book, the pastor's name is bigger than the name of Jesus, kind of like, this is a little out of hand.
So you've always been a leader of leaders, ever since I've known you. You've attracted just phenomenal folks to work alongside of you, to come alongside of you, and oftentimes you sending them out to different places to plant a church or to go do what they feel like they're called to do. Why do you think that is? Do you think that everybody is like that, or do you think that you have a unique gift?
John, you're bad for my humility. You make me feel good. I appreciate it. It's just so much scarcity in the world. I think, it's like we all pretend there's only so many customers and only so many deals and only so many. But the reality is, especially if you're a person of faith, there's so many people, John. There's enough people for your show, as successful as it is. There's enough for somebody else to do another show at a different angle. It's just enough. There's more than enough. And once you decide that that's true, really true, not just say that it's true, and that God is a God of abundance and not a God of scarcity, then you can give away your friends. You can give away ideas. You can let people use your properties. The church that we started 4 years ago, out of that church, I've had 2 associate pastors go out and start church, one in Tacoma, one in Arizona. There are 3 other churches that use our building. One is a Messianic community, one is a little Baptist church, one is a non-denominational African American church. I mean, it's just like there's enough for everybody. It's a big building, and if you guys want to do a different time slot, you can just jump in here. And so what happens is other leaders are always looking for people with an abundance mentality. That's the real story.
Yeah.
They're looking for people who get it, because to be a leader is to be able to find resources, to find ideas. And so somehow I've been able to attract marketplace leaders, political leaders, faith leaders. And it's made my life richer. I just got back from a 3-day retreat with 4 other leaders. One of them leads a $40 million nonprofit, $40 million a year nonprofit. The other is almost $1 billion under financial management. I mean, it's just a lot just a group of people that God has brought into my life through this way or that way. And it's an honor to be their friend.
So tell me a situation or a story, because you are one of the best storytellers, of a situation that you found yourself in where you're like, how did I get into this room or this meeting or this situation? There's no explanation outside of, Jesus.
Well, I've met a lot of interesting people. Through some friends at the National Prayer Breakfast, I got some time with the Dalai Lama once.
Nice.
I've had private meetings with senators and congressmen. I'll tell you, one time I was in Washington, D.C., and I had a friend of mine who said he was affiliated with a university, and he said, "What would you like to spend some time with Hillary Clinton?" And I said, "Sure." So we went over to her office, and she was a senator at the time preparing for a presidential run. And we had this great hour, and I thought to myself, man, I'm with somebody who's, who was about to be the Secretary of State. And I was just really kind of full of this, felt like I was a player.
Yeah.
And I got in the taxi ride to go back to my hotel, and my taxi driver was crying. And I said, "Hey, what's up?" And they were from another country, and they, with tears in their eyes. So I said, "Hey, could you pull over?" And he pulled over, and I said, "Tell me about your family." And this guy was from Ethiopia, hadn't seen his family for a few years, and he and I got a chance to pray in this taxi in Washington, D.C. And at the end of the day, John, when I put my head on the pillow, I felt better about my time in the taxi with this Ethiopian dude than I had with this United States senator. Not to kick the senator, but just to say, one of the things that my friend Doug Coe used to say is, "Hey, Dean, I've been in the big teepee, and the people in the big teepee, they're hurting just as much as the people in the little teepees." And it really is true, So I guess I'm not as impressed with the power and money as I probably was at 21 or 24. Now I'm 54 now, and I'm just kind of looking for connections. I had this one story. I wrote a book called In the Right Seat. I know you've read it, but the first story is when I had gotten bumped up to first class on an Alaska Airlines flight from Phoenix, Arizona to Seattle, Washington. And this woman who sat next to me had picked a fight with the gal next to her. And had kind of said I was sitting next to the meanest person on the plane. And at the end, by the end of the flight, she and I were great friends. She was a scientist, and she and I got to pray together. She was going through a hard time and lashing out and manifesting. I don't know. So those are the stories that mean the most to me.
That's awesome. So, you've done a great job of bringing people together. I think that's one of your skill sets. Talk to me about, the times that we live in. Right now, so many people are against so many things. They're not for things. So many people are finding ways in life to be negative instead of positive, to find, figuring out a way to be pissed off at something instead of excited about something. And I don't know if that's doing us much good. Talk to me about, why do you think we're at this place in our, America or society, and what are some things people can do to get away from that way of thinking?
Gosh, what a great question. I think there's a message out there that says this is such a divisive time. You guys should soften your positions. You know what I mean? It's like whenever we want to get along, we start talking as if we can't have deeply held beliefs. Everybody needs to kind of soften their position. And one of the things I like about your podcast, as I've listened to these various episodes, is you have a point of view. You have a position. You have a position politically. You have a position on social issues, on faith issues. The problem is not our positions. The problem is our disposition. People aren't fighting because we have different positions. We're fighting because we have poor disposition. We're just mean. I have political convictions that are deeply held on some divisive issues, from marriage to sexuality to faith. But I still have Muslim friends, even though I'm a pastor of a community built around the idea that Jesus is a savior. I still have Buddhist friends. I have Buddhists that attend my church.
I love it.
And they're not asking me to change my position. They know darn well my position. But I've worked on my disposition to be sweet, to listen instead of talking all the time. I don't know. Does that feel right? Because I love when there are lots of times I hear people and I agree with their position, but their disposition is just so sour. Like, hey, you're not helping.
Yeah.
And there are other times where I meet people and they're teachable and they listen. And you mentioned Mark Lindquist, who's a great friend. He and I have been friends for 20 years, and I guess politically, in some categories anyway, not all, we'd be complete opposites politically. But
you probably hit the hang up button.
I did. I hit the wrong one.
That's funny.
I hit the wrong button.
You're getting so into it. You're getting so passionate about it that.
Yeah. Oh, brother, that's
hilarious.
How it goes when you get rolling. But I was just saying to someone like Mark, we're complete in some categories anyway, complete opposites.
Yeah.
But he has such a sweet disposition, and I work on my disposition, and we on some things we agree to disagree. On some things we kind of mentor, teach each other different points of view, and in the end, we're gonna hopefully he'll come around to my way of thinking.
That's I like your thought on that, because oftentimes I'll have people on the show and I'll have friends tell me, to my face or text me or whatever, why'd you have that person on the show? You don't agree with their position. Why would you have them on the show? It happens every week. People send me these kind of emails, and I know it. I just remind folks that having a conversation with somebody doesn't mean you agree with them. It just means you want to hear about
Yes.
what they're doing in their life.
Exactly. A few months ago, I had a meeting with Senator Patty Murray, who, for people in Alaska who aren't familiar with her, she's a liberal Democrat. She's now I want to say the third
Yeah, she's very powerful in the
highest.
Senate.
Yeah, she is a very high-ranking member now. And I posted a picture of myself with her.
Oh, John,
And
that
you were,
probably set off the alarms.
oh my God, oh my gosh. As if I was, as if I was endorsing her for Pope.
Yeah.
And if in my caption just said, "Congratulations, Senator Murray. I'm praying for you every day." Now, which part of that are you not for? Congratulating someone who just got a good honor, even though you may not agree with her on anything.
Yeah.
Uh, Scripture tells us to pray for our leaders. So, I mean, we just so funny. Human beings, John, are a conundrum.
It's pretty funny. So you've written a new book. I think that can be super helpful for folks. For folks that are interested, we're going to do a book giveaway. So Pastor Dean has a book on Amazon. Folks can get a hard copy of. We're going to be giving away one of those. All folks have to do is like, comment, share, tag a friend in this post, and you'll be entered to win. And then I'm going to put a link in the description here. Somebody could just go get this other book we're going to talk about for free on Pastor Dean's website, church website. But Pastor, tell us about this new book and what it means to you.
The new book is called Precipice, and it's an ebook. And it was really written at the outset of the war in Ukraine. I've been to Ukraine on several occasions, met with parliament members, and I met with the former prime minister there, President Yulia Shevchenko. And I love the city of Kiev. It's one of the great cities of history. And what was like other topics, this war has become a divisive thing. Like, should we, shouldn't we? Da, da, da. But battle, the theme of battle, is something that every human has to make peace with. Battling for your business, battling for a marriage, battling for your kids, battling worldviews. And there are hidden clues in this battle and other battles that help you understand how you can face the battles in your own life, because there's going to be accusation that comes your way. There's going to be hurt feelings that come your way. There's going to be financial pressure that comes your way. There are going to be topics where you have to pick sides, where you have to defend something. I don't know about you, but I've bought a few new cars in my life, and they never make locks optional. The stereo may be optional, the this, the that, but never the locks. Everything of value has to be defended. That's why there are locks on your doors and locks in your car. So about how to defend in a battle, how to take offense. So that's the idea. It's just a little ebook that uses the principles from this Ukraine war and kind of makes a personal application.
That's pretty awesome. So you've probably had some great mentors in your life. Talk to me about one of them that you've looked up to over the years, or maybe have been your hero, and why. I think it's important for everybody to have a mentor and be mentoring other folks. So tell me about that person in your life.
Yeah, wow. I feel so blessed to have had so many great mentors. My first employer, Fulton Buntain, I mentioned him. I named my son after him. Just a great man, pragmatic, practical. Doug Coe, who was more of a global leader. These guys all had something in common. They took an interest in other people. They took an interest in me. Mentorship, it's hard to force yourself into a room. The greatest men and women that I've ever known, they invite people into the room, and they invested in me. Doug Coe, for instance, and there's a Netflix documentary, kind of a divisive documentary. I have not watched it personally. It's called The Family, about Doug. And an interview that I did with him is featured in the documentary. As I understand it, because it's negative, I knew Doug. I don't need Netflix to tell me who he was. And apparently the depiction of his intentions wasn't entirely positive. But one time I got a call at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was Doug. Took the call. I said, "Hi, Doug. Is everything okay?" He said, "Yeah. Do you have a second?" I'm like, "Oh, sure." He was in his 80s, at the time. I'm like, "Sure, Doug.
Doug
Why
calls
not?
you
It's
at
1
1 in the
o'clock in the
morning. You're
morning.
answering the phone.
Yeah, I got nothing else. I got nothing else going. And he said, "Can I read you something?" And I said, "Yeah." So he starts reading me scripture. He's like, "I was just reading this. It's just great. Wasn't Jesus something else?" And he just starts, and he goes, "Anyway, I just wanted you to hear that verse." And he hung up, you know. And it's just, I love moments like that where he's reading something, he thinks of me. And I've tried to mimic that in my life, just send somebody a text, send somebody a voicemail, just let them know I'm thinking about them, even if it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Another time, I ran into him accidentally. I happened to be in Washington, D.C. on something else, and I swung by his house, and I hadn't made an appointment or whatever. And he saw me, and he's like, "Hey," he had some people in the other room, and he said, "Hey, come in here." And he pulled me into a coat closet, and he says to me, "Hey, I got a question for you." I said, "Yeah." We're like standing there in this dumb closet. He goes, "Have you ever seen an apple tree move?" And I said, "No, Doug, I haven't seen an apple tree move." He goes, "What?" "Yeah, me neither." "What about a water fountain? Have you ever seen a water fountain, one of those big fountains? You ever see one get up and move?" And I said, "No, I haven't, Doug." "Why do you ask?" He goes, "Yeah, well, me neither." He goes, "Well, if you haven't seen an apple tree move or a water fountain move, how do people eat? Or how do they drink?" I said, "Doug, they go to the tree. The tree doesn't go to them." And I just walked right into it. He's like, "Right." Then he goes, "Then
And
why
he
are
was
you
probably
running?"
meeting with, like the vice president or something like that.
Right. But then he says, "Why are you running around? Why don't you just have fruit in your life? People will find you. Why don't you just have living water in you? People will find you. You should stop running around so much. Just be dean of Tacoma.
Yeah.
And if you have fruit on the tree, people will beat their path to you." And bro, man, I was so busy.
That was probably a life-changing moment right there.
It changed my life, especially after this painful episode, and how the work there in Tacoma transitioned so painfully. You kind of say to yourself, well, now I got to start running around trying to defend myself or whatever. Instead, you just sort of like, maybe I won't defend myself. Maybe I'll just be a tree over here.
I like that.
Let's grow good fruit.
That's a good plan. So,
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Pastor Dean? Do you see yourself? I mean, you're like, I picture you as the pastor of the 253 till you're 97. But
Thank you, brother.
do you? What's next for the church? Are you guys growing? You mentioned 3 services. You got a bunch of other churches using the building.
Yeah.
You strike me as somebody who is gonna have growth in their life. Without necessarily bragging or talking about it, but just curious what's next for you.
Yeah, I feel like Jesus is always doing good stuff. So I don't really worry too much about churches. Of course, the church is growing, but I just feel like I know a lot of Jesus people who have that scarcity mentality we were talking about. So as I encounter people, I just want to help people figure out how to. One way I've been thinking about it, John, is that so many people are on a leash. They were born to be free. They were born to hunt. They were born to get out, but they get stuck because they're on a leash called a salary. There are a lot of pastors, great pastors, but a denomination has them on a leash, or a salary has them on a leash, or public approval has them on a leash. And I just really want to spend the last part of my life helping people get free in their head, free from, feeling like, oh, I got to have a salary. And there's so many opportunities financially for people to make money in various industries to help them get free. And some of the blessing of my life has been helping other people get free. I'm particularly interested in, I've been doing these seminars for young African Americans so they can get their first house. Because really, financial freedom at some level is about getting in the housing market. So we've done trainings for several hundred young African Americans.
That's awesome.
So they could get their first house, so they could figure out the programs. And I have two proteges that now they have 9 units. They have
Nice.
6 units. And these are guys, they have other jobs, but they're getting free. They're getting off the leash, and then spiritually, to see people get off the leash because they're connected to drugs or alcohol or sexuality that's in a toxic form. So this is how I think about the future.
Well, I could probably talk to you for another 2 hours, but we've gone 45 minutes in our half an hour show. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Pastor Dean, for coming on the show and sharing with our listeners a little bit of insight into your life. You've lived an extraordinary life for only being in your 50s, and I'm sure that God's not done with you yet, and He's got some cool things in store for you.
I appreciate the friendship, John.
You have any last minute thoughts before we head off here? For maybe there's people, that we're going to have folks that are going to listen to this. We have listeners all around the world, and they're going to say to themselves, because I know that people have said this after they've maybe listened to one of your sermons or met you in person, there's something different about this guy. I want to learn more about this Jesus guy, or this way of thinking. So tell folks maybe where they can find your sermons and your church and website, Facebook, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the church's website is ourchurch.us. It's OUR church.us. But I think, I think if people, pick up a Bible and read the red letters in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and don't read the commentaries. It doesn't matter what some guy in Missouri thinks. It's like we're so used to getting in a way, it doesn't matter what Dean thinks, just people. This Jesus was fascinating, transformational, multi-impactful leader. I believe he was more than just a leader, but people should find out for themselves. And the other thing I would leave people with is John Quick is not a podcast leader. John is a leader. And your influence in my life and friendship over the years has meant so much. And I don't like you could tell I'm kind of against the sub identities. A podcast is one thing you do, but what you've done in the marketplace with your family, what you're doing, being a thought leader in Alaska, it's impactful, John. And I love you, and I'm grateful for you.
I appreciate it. Well, Pastor Dean, you're welcome back anytime. I could probably have you on every day and and got people excited about it. So I appreciate you coming on the show. We're going to put a link in the description on how to get that ebook for free for folks. And then we're going to do a book giveaway. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to want to like, comment, share, tag a friend, and you could win a copy of Pastor Dean's previous book, which will be very exciting. And we'll have Pastor Dean back on again here in a month or two. I'm sure that he'll be happy, hopefully, to come back on. And until next time, I'm John Quick from Somewhere in Alaska. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. We're going to have Representative Jamie Allard on, and she's going to be talking to us all about the latest happenings with the being in session there in Juneau and what she thinks the House can accomplish while in session. So you're not going to want to miss that. Hope everybody has a phenomenal day, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thanks, Pastor.